Today's focus is on Project Q, everything we know about it, where it will stand in a rapidly crowding portable gaming ecosystem, and how the top dog Nintendo Switch might have affected it. This is the Single Player Soliloquy, here on The Way We Play. I'm your host, Bryan, and I hope all of you are in good spirits, whether it's day, night, you're working, or just relaxing at home. So one of the biggest announcements at the PlayStation Showcase in May was Sony finally revealing the long-rumored PlayStation handheld. Let's break down everything we know about it and compare it to some of its competitors. In terms of a name, of course, it's still under wraps. It goes by codename Project Q. If you remember, the Switch went by the codename NX until it was revealed in late 2016. We know that it'll have an 8-inch LCD display that supports up to 1080p resolution. By comparison, the Wii U and the OG Switch have a 6.2-inch screen. The Steam Deck has a 7-inch LCD screen with 720p resolution. And the Logitech G Cloud has a 7-inch LCD with 1080p resolution. What you're going to see is that the Logitech G Cloud is the closest competitor in terms of what they do on the market right now. Now, between all of them, it has the largest display, but like I said, Logitech is the closest competitor. The DualSense controller is attached to the left and right side of either of the display there, and it will rely and require strong Wi-Fi connections to play, preferably within the household of the PS5 system it's tied to. This is, again, more similar of any system. It's similar to the Logitech G Cloud, or dare I mention, the Wii U. The Wii U gamepad, of course, gave you only a certain amount of distance. You had to be close to the Wii U system, whereas this works with the Wi-Fi, and with that, you probably could be anywhere within the house as long as that Wi-Fi is strong enough. Insider Gaming reports that battery life is just negligible, 3 to 4 hours total. And when you look at the competition, reviewers found that the game streaming handheld, the Logitech G Cloud, got around 9 hours of gameplay operation. The Wii U gamepad, of course, released way back in 2012, got 3 to 5 hours, but over the years, the batteries have had difficulty retaining that amount of time. When you look at pure portable gaming consoles, the Steam Deck varies between something like 2 and 8 hours, apparently, depending on how hardcore of a game it is. And the most recent Nintendo Switch OLED model gets between 4.5 to 9 hours. Now, the price is still yet to be revealed, but competitor pricing includes the Switch Standard at $299, the OLED model at $349, the Logitech G Cloud at $349, and the Steam Deck for $50 more at $399. So in summary, the PlayStation Project Q will have the largest screen of any portable. It'll be buffered by a half DualSense controller on either side. It will be unusable if the Wi-Fi fails or it can't connect. It only gets up to 3 to 4 hours battery life, and its closest competitor is the Logitech G Cloud, which starts at $349. So potentially the price is around $300 to $400 as we looked at all those competitors, and that's probably where Sony wants to price this unless it wants to be smart, which is where I would say likely $199 is its best bet to make a lot of money. But I think that as a product, this is insane. It doesn't really have a place to fit, especially in the PlayStation lineup. You think about all of the remote play concepts that they already have, all of the remote play console devices or mobile devices that they have. They have the backbone already. They just revealed the backbone, and that does practically the same thing, just with your phone. So it's not that this is going to be very unique in its own way. But what I want to get to is, of course, that this is absolutely the opposite of what PlayStation tends to do when it's entering the portable market, right? Like, let's go through the history here. The PSP, they're usually the most, PlayStation overall, again, is the most technically advanced player usually in the portable market. They flip on their head what Nintendo does. Nintendo is usually at the time from PSP through PS Vita was doing gaming that was simplified, portable gaming that were smaller titles, smaller games. You were never going to get games that were console quality. But when you got to the PSP, you had console quality games on the go. You had UMD technology, which was this mini disc format that Sony was patenting and trying to go forward with. It didn't work, obviously. We all, if you had a PSP, remember that those shells really had problems retaining that UMD disc, but it focused on being cool and multifunctional, right? You could do remote play just like this upcoming Project Q with the PS3 on the PSP. And its user interface, this is how advanced it was. Its user interface literally was such a legacy that it affected every single console since. The PS3 uses that cross-media bar design. The PS4 evolves on that cross-media bar design. The PS5 goes a step further. Now, you could say that the PS Vita, of course, went touchscreen, so that's the one system where it didn't have that legacy. But overall, the cross-media bar really set the precedent, and the PSP was where that started, The PSP was just this cool handheld. You looked at the fact that it had this glossy front, this nice, at the time, large screen. Again, you could play games like not San Andreas, but you could play, I'm trying to think of all the games that I played in the past, especially something like Rockstar's Midnight Club 3. If you couldn't get the full GTA title on, you had all of these games like Liberty City Stories. You had these Star Wars Battlefront spin-offs. You had platformers, of course, like Daxter. You even had something like Gran Turismo on the PSP. So they were going all out in introducing us to, hey, here's the next step in portable gaming. We aren't going to do what Nintendo does, which is offer you a device that is not super powerful. We are going to give you the most powerful device that you've ever seen in the portable market. And we're going to put games on it that show you the potential, And again, you had games like, Mod Nation Racers. You had games like, just the list goes on and on and on. It was just ahead of its time. You look at the PSP Go. You had 16 gigabytes of internal storage in 2009 on that PSP Go, and packed into such a tiny system. Just to remind you all, Nintendo put the same amount on the Wii U base model in 2012. Nintendo put only double that amount on the launch Switch in 2017. The PSP Go, 16 gigabytes in 2009 internal, is absolutely impressive. And again, multifunctional. You could watch movies, you could play. It emphasized watching movies, playing music, being a multimedia device beyond just the gaming landscape. So when you look at that, going into then the PS Vita, they took a step even further because you had an even more interesting design. Some people find it controversial, but the only thing I think people think about that design was that they overdid it. In fact, you had this just a even larger screen. You had then an OLED display, not just a standard display, an OLED display that was a touch screen at that point, and a back that had these touch features. It had dual analog sticks. It still was multifunctional and could do remote play with the PS4. So what we're getting at is that you still had, and by the way, you still had console quality games on the go with that. You had a Killzone title, you had an Uncharted title, you had Assassin's Creed titles, you had all of these things being implemented that were impressive for the time. And you just cannot underestimate, I can take this on the go and I can enjoy what I could enjoy there. And of course, they promised remote play, but they went too far. They promised that it would go and you could use the mobile networks, which mobile networks at the time, nowhere close. But you wonder, could mobile networks do that now? Could the idea of what they were promising in their advertising campaign with the Vita work on the Project Q? But they're not going to do that. They're going to rely still on Wi-Fi only. And I think that might be for the best. But obviously, you're looking at 5G now, and I think that's just a much stronger, it's much stronger than obviously 10 years ago when they advertised remote play and it just didn't work well. So I think they should have gone with that so that people could play more portably, especially since, again, this is a device made to be sort of moving around, not just stuck on the couch with the PS5 next to you. But At the end of the day, what I'm looking at is this is the least impressive portable they will have ever made because it's not focused on being portable. It requires an internet connection. Again, PSP, PS Vita, PSP Go, they don't require internet. All those games, that's their own committed system. This requires an internet connection, and it has the lowest battery levels of any of the consoles they've ever made. To me, this is not a portable system. This is a Wii U gamepad that's 10 years too late. Which is just incredibly surprising. It's surprising, but it's interesting because Sony had filed patents since 2015, years before the Switch. But at the tail end of the Wii U era, you look at the design of these patents, and obviously this is the legacy of that. So you wonder just, what will this do? And it doesn't seem like it will do anything better than just being able to do what you could on your phone. They're not going after being a multifunctional device. They're not doing all of that. This is, again, just going to be a pure gamepad style thing. Now, let's talk about the top dog. Has Switch hypothetically affected Project Q? I mentioned the impressive history of Sony portables. Outside of the PSP batteries blowing up, if you want an interesting experience beyond the standard nature, because at the time, people forget the DS and the Game Boy Advance were around at the same time as the original PSP. Like, night and day, man. Beautiful design, just awesome to play with. But getting back on the point, impressive history of Sony portables. They put their best foot forward every time. But when you look at the units sold, the PSP does not touch Nintendo. So you have to think about it from Sony's eyes. Imagine going through so much research and development over and over and over the PSP 1000, adjusting things to the PSP 2000 and the 3000, going to the PSP Go. I think there was something called the PSP Street or whatever over in Europe, right? You had the PS Vita again, then you did more with the PS Vita Slim. It's like, imagine all that R&D for such low numbers at the end of the day, especially when you look at the Vita. You put all that money and time into it. And of course, some of that is Sony's fault. You put a mandate on requiring specific Sony-made memory cards that are super expensive. And guess what? You're not going to get many people. But at the end of the day, they put so much research and development in only for this to happen. Only for sales numbers to be so low in comparison, And so Sony, when they look at that and they say, well, are we going to jump back in? They're not going to pour their resources into a full portable platform. Remember, they're still trying to concentrate output on the PS5 and the PSVR 2. They've got a lot of things to bungle with those two. We just saw the showcase and we're wondering where are the other games? And that's where the focus needs to be, on PS5 and PSVR 2. And again, just think about all of the multifunctionality and the technology PlayStation poured into the PSP, poured into the PS Vita. And then consider Sony just looking across the pond, looking right at Nintendo. The Switch is the third best-selling console of all time. It does not focus on being multifunction. In fact, it doesn't allow you to go to the home, go to the store, come back out, go to the game. You have to shut down the game, go to the store, wait for the store is slow, buy the thing, wait for the, absolutely slow. Not multifunctional. It doesn't give you options. The Switch does not give you options on personality. Still can't design a background. Still can't do much in terms of design. Outside of buying Joy-Cons that other people make. Third best-selling system of all time. The technology powering the Switch is severely aged. People aren't going out and saying, I need the most powerful thing. People are saying that. But they're not, it's almost not real, right? Like, people are saying, man, they need to make a more powerful thing. People are still buying it in hotcakes, man. people are still buying it, and they're buying the games like crazy. So it's not an issue of the system, and it's not an issue of the software. In fact, people love the software so much that the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom sold 10 million copies in 3 days. It is not an issue of the platform. People looking on the outside in may say, and we need a more powerful thing, but the audience is just fine with it. Third best-selling system of all time. The touchscreens are barely used by developers. Remember, this thing has a touchscreen. I don't know if you knew that. Some people know that, but it's barely used. It's not really implementing that technology. And people aren't saying we really, really need to use the touchscreens. Sony had that issue before with other developers. Why would they go and put more technology cost into trying to put their best foot forward and doing putting so much money into another touchscreen device? Maybe that's what this is going to be, but it doesn't seem like Project Q will do that. But again, third best-selling system of all time. It is an awful entertainment platform. The YouTube app is so standard. It is so much easier to just use your phone or an iPad or anything else. It is so bare bones that it hurts to use. It is slow to type out things. It is not good. There are not many apps, streaming apps, on the Switch. It is incredible how few streaming apps are on the Switch for it being such a large selling console. Yet it is not this massive entertainment device. Yet look at what Sony did. Sony did that every single time. It was focused on being this entertainment hub. But again, people don't care. Third best-selling system of all time. It didn't even transfer purchases made from the 3DS or the Wii U. You could have spent so much money in that Wii U or 3DS ecosystem, and it would not have mattered. It did not matter. You started over again. When it came to the wallet, people did not care. Third best-selling system of all time. So when you look at Sony staring at Nintendo, it's like players will complain about certain things, but they do not require much at the end of the day. They do not require much, and we are going to do as little as we can. We're not going to make a committed portable platform. I didn't see anything about it being a touchscreen. Possibly it may not be a touchscreen. If it is a touchscreen, we aren't going to really emphasize that it is. It doesn't matter. We're going to use the controller that we already have developed on. We are not going to put all of our money and investment into this, because both times we tried this before, we could not come close to Nintendo. The PSP did sell pretty well. It sold fine. It's like if you looked at the Xbox One numbers, it's like in another era, that's a good number, what the Xbox One sold in its lifetime. But in the present, it's far back in third place. It's not good. So it's that's why to me, the PlayStation Showcase should have leaned significantly more on being a Project Q console reveal than just a game showcase featuring the device, especially when more time was given to headphones of all things. I know some people are audiophiles and they love that stuff. And Sony has a really cool looking modern Walkman that if I had the money, I would buy because it just looks sleek and cool. But that's just madness for the price. I mean, people could buy so many other headphones, especially gamers. Most of us don't care about brand headphones when we're playing games. I'll go to Five Below or I'll go to, Amazon, and I'll spend the cheapest amount of money possible, as long as, they provide the comfort that I need and they provide the sound that I need, the two most valuable things when you're choosing headphones, I think. But, I think at that showcase, it should have been, hardware designers detailing what makes the system special, piece by piece. You show off the user interface. You bring the home screen up. You give us the menus. You give us an idea of how the player will use it. You don't just show it briefly and move on. And it's crazy. It is crazy because 10 years ago, in February of 2013, Sony put on a masterclass when it revealed the PlayStation 4. Its technology, the leaders behind it, revealing the user interface, the software. They put their best foot forward because they were so arrogant early in the PS3's life. And they needed to bring developers back. They needed to bring the player base that had slid to Xbox 360 back. They needed that, so they showed off, like I was saying before, they showed off the user interface. They showed off the menus. They showed off the friend grouping. They showed off the idea of how the player will use it. You know, the only thing they didn't show was the hardware design, but they showed the controller. So they showed everything. They showed you how to play it or what you would be using to play it. They showed you the software, you know, and that was very good. And again, that's the point. Arrogance on display. That's what it feels like. It's like, this was arrogant at the PlayStation Showcase. No, they'll buy it anyway. Why do we need to preface them on what this is? They are going to buy it, guys. Calm down. And that's what gets them into this mess to begin with. Especially if the price later on is revealed to be higher than $200. For the price of, by the way, for the price of $200, you could get a fully committed portable device from Nintendo. You could buy a Switch Lite. Some people don't like it, but it is still a valuable device if you want to get into and play full hard, actual, a committed portable console for $199. And so, what is the value here? Because this is not Sony at their best. This is not like doing a PSP 3.0 now. This is not like Sony doing a PS Vita 2. This is not a sequel worth mentioning in the lineage of PlayStation portables. This is a Wii U gamepad that can go a little bit further on Wi-Fi, and that's it. And Sony thinks that that's enough to sell you when they didn't even sell us to begin with in this showcase. First impressions are everything. We all remember the Xbox One, how far that was bungled. They messed that up big time. All the press around it, all of the company heads talking about the requirements. And how is this any different? Some people will say, hey, look at it. 10 years later, people just use Wi-Fi all the time. Internet's much more capable. But we lost our minds 10 years ago when we heard that internet was required for a device. And now it's like, here's a device that's required for internet to be portable. It's portable. It's not a home console, yet it needs internet. It just does not make sense. But maybe, we'll see how this goes. We'll see what gets detailed. But I definitely think that showcase should have been tease the device, inform us on what it is. That's the start. And then you start getting into the games. And you get into the games and you get into what the games would look like on the device. But that is not what's happening here. Does it have a microphone so you don't need to use a headphone? I'm sure it does have a microphone, but no one said that. Does it have, what speakers does it have? What is the output? How good is the output? And we had to strangle someone for the battery life. Battery life is awful. But at the end of the day, again, first impressions are everything. And I think this device, I hope it's good, but I just find that they are wasting its potential. And I also find that there is not a lot of potential to be gained here from this device in general, because it's not a device that's a portable console. It is just, it's an iPad. It's not even an iPad, because an iPad can do more. So it doesn't do multifunctionality all that well, it seems. But we will find out. This has been the Single Player Soliloquy. If you would like me to continue on more soliloquies like this, let me know in the comments below, or just email me at thewayweplaypodcast@gmail.com. All together, thewayweplaypodcast@gmail.com. I'm Bryan. It was good to have you here. And as always, stay tuned for more.